is that I am not your personal assistant.
Say that.
I am not. And I feel like people believe that when we come on board as their planner, that they can ask us for any and everything. And you can't. What is in that contract? That's what I'm doing.
Right.
Like, there's some, of course, there's some things, sure, I can do this for you, but I'm not your personal assistant, and you won't take advantage of me to believe that you have endless hours of access to me. You don't.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Kickback with Keri podcast. I'm your host, Keri Henderson, and I am excited for today's guest. I have known him, I don't know, it's been a long time. When I was a stylist, I knew him. He is a former Army vet, a speaker, a coach, and the owner of a premier event planning company in DC. He has some credentials, y'all. Let me read them down for you. He's named among 100 most influential event professionals, featured in Washingtonian Magazine, Bridges Magazine, Modern Luxury, The Know, and so much more. Welcome, Andrew Roby. Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm gonna do the most on the intros. Yes, I'm gonna do the most.
It's totally okay. It's fine.
You love it. Welcome.
No, I can appreciate the accolades for what they are.
Well, I'm excited that you're
I
here.
feel like I'm above that, but we're multifaceted, so
Yes, and then anytime I see your work on something, I'm like, look what you're featured in. I get excited for people that I know, just because I see the work that you do. I know how long you've been doing the work that you're doing, so I get excited when people that I know get the accolades and the recognition that they deserve.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yes,
I'm gonna always take my flowers.
Yes, and so we go back. I think when I was preparing for this sit down, I remember I was like, dang. We go back to like Pentagon City.
Oh my God!
Yeah, when I saw that fashion shoot,
Simon Walls was our client, and they asked us to do these fashion shows in the mall as a experiential thing for them. That's right.
I remember. I was like, I sure was running around that mall getting looks for that. Yeah,
from the stores. That's when they had like BB store that was in there and everything. Macy's. Oh my! That was a long time ago.
I know.
Wow.
I remember that, and then we did that style shoot you did for your business when we were at the hotel. Yes. I love those images.
Yes, that was the DuPont Circle Hotel. Oh my goodness, yeah, those are still classic images.
I know.
Still use those
I know
images.
you do. I was on your website.
They're good. Yeah,
I was on the website, and for one of the blog posts you guys had, I said, "Oh, he's using those images from that shoot."
Oh man, wow, that's been some years.
I know. Been a long time.
Jeez. Okay, I'll take that.
So you were an Army vet, and then you you became an event planner.
Yeah.
What inspired this to become an event planner after being in the Army for so long?
I think, my biggest thing for transitioning out of the Army, honestly, was mental health.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of people don't realize. I feel like people fantasize about the military and the way that they pitch it. The military has an amazing PR engine that allows a person on the outside feeling, hey, if you join this, you're going to support your country. You're going to do this. You're going to feel better than everybody else, that is doing regular everyday, not to diminish the regular everyday stuff, but being, a fireman or a EMS person, like those are out of the world, type situations until you get into it.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the hell did I just, sign up for? Again, I don't regret being in the Army, and there was a lot of things that I absolutely adored being in the military for. It taught me a lot of stuff. Everything from, being selfless, working with teams, leadership, understanding how to navigate and handle different people in different environments, both stressful and non-stressful, right? But also the PR aspect of it too, and what to present and how to say it and when to say it, to whom to say it to. But even in situations like that, being deployed and the rigorous environment that you're in on a daily basis, where in many times, you're waking up, it's 4:00 in the morning. You don't leave work until 5, 6 o'clock, and you're busy
Yeah.
like doing so much stuff, and even worse when you're deployed. And what I found being in the Army is that people in the Army don't have the wisdom to understand emotional intelligence.
Mm.
And because of that lack of training, at least with when I was in the Army, stress is just
Yep.
increasing, and then you add being deployment on there, and people trying to adapt and adjust to deployment life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I was like, I really can't continue on this, because I found myself getting to the point where I was angry for no reason. I was creating scenarios in my head that never was, was not
Mm-hmm.
reality, and I was just in a state where I was like, well, it's either the Army or it's going to be me.
Mm.
And I chose me. And I
Oh,
was like, after my last involuntary extension, I was like, I can't do it anymore. I got to get out.
yeah.
And I left. And, my last duty station was at the Old Guard. And the Old Guard, for who, if you don't know, is a ceremonial, very prestigious unit, because they work with presidents, foreign dignitaries, very high military officials, but they also do, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. They bury
Oh.
all of the soldiers um, in Arlington National Cemetery
Okay.
who meets the criteria for that. And it's the Army component. Of course, every branch has their own component of the Old Guard in a sense. And during that time, it taught me so much about attention to detail and how to do everything by the numbers, in step, making sure nothing was like
Mm-hmm.
messed up or whatever. And I got a chance to work with BOSS, which is Better Opportunities for Single Service Members, and just help serve soldiers who just brand new got to the barracks, didn't know what was going on, didn't have an outlet, didn't know anybody, have extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
So we were planning things like Coca-Cola 3-on-3 basketball tournament. We were planning fashion shows. We were planning like all these other kinds of things, which is why that led me into
Yeah, I was saying, so you and
to
your planning,
fashion.
you and your planning back early.
I didn't even realize that
Yeah.
that was God.
Okay.
It's just how he
He
works.
said, "Let me
It's
plant
so
the seed
funny.
right now." Go
Yeah,
ahead.
exactly. So that seed was planted, and so I got out and I said, let me at least go to school, because in the military, and that's that PR engine, when they try to get you to be into the military, it's like, yeah, you can get your degree while you're in the military.
Mm-hmm.
You know how hard it is to get a degree while you're deployed? Do you know
Right.
how hard it is to get a degree when you are at work at 4 o'clock in the morning? You get off at 5 o'clock. You don't want to go to night school.
Exactly.
And going to night school takes years just to
Mhm.
complete a degree. So I was like, I need to get an actual degree. Because when I got out of the military, I only had an associate's. And I was in the military, mind you, 9 years.
I was gonna say 9 or 10. Yeah.
Yeah. And the most I could get was an associate's, which
yeah.
takes people 2 years to get. And it
Mhm.
took me 9 years to get that
Wow.
because of how crazy it was. And so I was like, well, let's stop. Let's get, my bachelor's degree, go for my master's, and do that. And then I said, well, now I got to figure out
What I'm gonna do.
because
Yeah.
here I am. I'm counting on the GI Bill. I'm unemployed,
Yep.
and I'm just going to school. And then that's how it just fell into literally doing cocktail parties for my friends, and then that led to doing cocktail parties for clients and businesses. And 20 years later, here I
Come
am.
on, 20 years.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't believe it.
I can't. It's a lot has happened in 20 years. I will tell you that. But that's how I started. And I started literally planning fashion shows. Like after the cocktail parties, fashion shows was the next thing I
So
started
was that
doing.
the fashion shows with the piece when I met you? Then you had moved from
Yeah.
cocktail parties to
I
the
moved
fashion
from
shows.
listen, I was graduating.
You gotta go step by step and upgrade.
That's
Yeah.
right. Seriously, I started planning fashion shows for local designers
Mhm.
in the area, and we were trying to create, Bryant Park. Back in the day, Bryant Park
Yep.
was the place for New York Fashion Week, and all the tents and all that kind of stuff. And so we were trying to plan. We weren't doing it in tents, but we were still trying to give the experience of the business side of fashion. And
Mhm.
sometimes, people see the fashion show and believe that's all that it is, the models and the clothes, and
Yep.
that's it. But no, you have to have the press, you have to have the buyers, all these other things. The manufacturers just start spitting this stuff out. And I ended doing fashion shows because the designers weren't ready. They weren't ready to focus on the back end of it, which is the business side. And I was like, well, if you're going to New York, all those designs are ready.
Yeah, they are.
And I was like,
they come there like,
yeah,
listen,
like, you go and you have a buyer that's going to come and look, and that buyer says, I want to be able to get, however much on this production line, and you got to be ready to give them what it is that they're asking for. And I was like, well, what's the point of me doing these fashion shows when designers, they don't want to pay for the production of a fashion show. They want you to pay and invest into their line. And I'm like, well, if you're not even willing to work on the back end for the business side, I'm not going to invest money in you for some. Like, this is not a, this is just entertainment for me. So I was like, forget it. Let's stop. And that was literally 5 years. I was doing that for 5 years. And I said, I'm not doing it anymore.
So after you did the fashion shows, did you go from fashion shows to weddings, or did you do corporate events and social events first? It was
corporate events.
Corporate events.
Yes.
How did you get into that space?
So I don't even remember how I got into that space, but we were doing because we were doing a lot of nonprofit work because of the cocktail party aspect, and so that was easy to fall back into and maintain that. But we were I think within the fashion side, we were meeting so many different people. And part of the fashion stuff was having that initial cocktail hour type of experience. And we weren't just like, oh, here's a bar, have some drinks, whatever. But we were actually bringing in bands and entertainment.
I'm about to say, if your name is on it wasn't just going to be here have a drink. I was like, I already know, okay?
It can't just be basic.
It ain't going to be basic.
Yeah.
No.
So we were actually elevating the cocktail hour experience for people, and they liked that. And so that helped us to get, gigs to plan people's cocktail parties, and then later on, planning galas and all this other kind of stuff. And honestly, we didn't really get fully into wedding planning until I think the last 5 years has really been more so focused somewhat on weddings. Yeah. But most of our work is corporate. Yeah.
So one of the things I know you mentioned on another podcast was like years ago, when it came to your clientele, you changed your clientele. And I think we've talked, I've engaged on the post on LinkedIn when you posted about it. But why was that so important? What was your clientele before in the corporate space? What did you change it to? And why was it so important for you to change the type of clients that you work with now?
Yeah. So I'm okay to admit we were taking any client that met a threshold as far as budget goes.
Okay.
Because it allowed us to make sure that we could execute a proper event, and we're not trying to, be like, hey, this $5,000 person event, and they're trying to have it for $50,000.
Right.
Yeah, it's not, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And so we were, just making sure that, we could get our profit on, the sales side, but also make sure we can, plan that. But then it got to the point where during the pandemic, I just got so pissed. I got so pissed off at so many people who were just consistently careless with how they were navigating the event space. And what I mean by that is that so many people were, client-wise, were just doing events without a single care of giving back to the community, a single care of, hey, let me make sure that if we are doing an event, the vendor team looked as diverse as the people that were attending these events. You have so many people that, come from all areas of this country coming to an event space. And most of the people that are running the event are all white people.
Right.
And so I said, at this point, we're making a decision. It was a huge risk because we were canceling out clients where we saw these things happening again and again. Yeah. And I said to myself, at this point moving forward, we're only going to work with clients that had a community-based interest for the event. Yeah. So that meant, hey, this organization is bringing together however many people because, like one client right now, they bring together various cities from around the country who are there to ensure that their cities have a diversity type of program to help build their cities, because cities are faced with so many things: food deserts, transportation, lack thereof, infrastructure, etc. And so I said that's where our impact is at. I say our impact really has to be with organizations that are pushing the needle versus organizations that see the needle, know that it needs to be
And
pushed,
not doing
but
anything
refuse
about
to
it.
do it.
Yeah.
You know, and so I made that decision for the company, and I have never turned back, and I love it, and I'm going to continue to do it.
And so I guess the question is, what has the impact on your business been since you made that decision? Like, what does the business look like now?
Well, I would say last year was the highest paying year that we've ever had.
Okay.
So I'm gonna use that as my
that means you were moving in the right direction.
Yeah,
yes.
I feel like and it's not easy. It's not. I mean, that's a huge risk.
Yeah,
it is a huge risk because when we look at the dynamics of just our race and we know that most people who are doing events are white, right? And most organizations are ran by white people, and that's it is what it is. That's not a negative thing. That's that's
facts.
data.
Yeah.
And so I said, I feel like we could do more.
Yeah.
And I feel like when we're doing this, we can help people within our ability. I can bring on vendors. I can bring on whoever else to help be a part of this. And while at the same time educating our clients to be like, look, within our contract, it says if we're working on this project, it is a requirement that we have a diverse group of vendors. Period. And we go over that before you even sign a contract.
So they know
what
they're signing. They know what they're signing up for. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's how I feel like we make impact. And it's easy to be like, hey, I'm the only black person that got hired for this white people to do this and that. And sometimes we are.
Yeah.
But but that says, hey, let's go ahead and let's get other people involved. And I'm not the type of person like, oh, the entire vendor team has to be black people. No. I'm like, the entire vendor team has to be white. They can be Asian. They can be black. They can be Hispanic, Indian, whatever it is, as long as it's diverse.
It just needs to be diverse. Yeah. Multiple people from multiple backgrounds providing services.
Absolutely.
So when you started and you went from fashion shows to corporate spaces and even, changing your clientele, which I think is important because one of the things we'll talk about too is I know you do coaching for a lot of event planners. Yeah. And I think in any industry, it's important to figure out who your audience is. And it's great to be like, oh, I want to take money from everybody. But one, all money ain't good money. Yeah. And two, it's really about being in alignment with who you are and your company values. And I think that's what you've done, switching your clientele to those that focus on impact. Yeah. But what were some of the biggest challenges starting the business and then, switching your focus area, when you went from fashion to corporate to weddings? Like, what are some of the challenges you face?
It's always a curve because, one, when you start doing something and you do it for however many years or you do it so well, that's what people know you for. Yeah. And especially like on the fashion side, it took us a while, honestly, to get from fashion to be able to do corporate work or even to do wedding work. And in many cases, like, when we're talking how we work together on this style shoot, we had to go and start doing stuff like that and creating concepts so that way people could see we're capable. Yeah. You know what I mean? Of doing that stuff. So it took a while. It took me not taking a paycheck on many occasions, so that way the company could still, move forward until we had the capital, the cash flow, to be able to do what it is that we want to do. And I think that was another thing that at least for me, as a black man in this industry, it is not a lot of us. Like, it really is not. And getting hired and having proper cash flow was tough. Tough. I mean, I think that outside of being an Army veteran and almost homeless, those two things have been the toughest moments of my life. Yeah. Really. But yeah.
So how did you get over the cash flow problem? And let's talk about your coaching too, because I think it's so important, especially if you're in an industry where it looks one way and you have other people that look like you trying to be. A lot of people say they're event planners, but a lot of them as successful and actually have a cash flow and can actually have a business that's running and they profitable from that they can say this is the only, my source of income. So what type of things have you seen for other event planners or mistakes that they've been making that prompted you to say, hey, not only do I want to provide event planning services, but I also want to help other planners in this industry have a profitable business so that they don't find themselves in the we can't pay our bills, right. And we're struggling.
Struggle bus.
Struggle bus.
No,
yeah.
but I didn't want people to repeat what I had to go through. That really was a driving force because I was making mistakes. I was not charging enough. I wasn't, and it's more than just saying, "Oh, make sure you charge your worth." That's easy to say.
Exactly.
It is so easy for people just like a tagline.
And know your worth, charge your worth.
Yeah, but in essence, one, you have to know what that worth is. Yeah. And with our coaching is that I find so many people that come into our program don't even understand what their annual expense is. I would say, how much does it cost you to run your business for a year?
And they won't know.
Can't never answer the question. And so we have to go through those stages before we can then say, well, what is your fee and why are you charging this fee? Is your fee included in value and worth, profit margins, all that, that kind of stuff. So it was hard. And I went through the same thing. I didn't have anybody to say,
what's my annual fee?
Right. I was, and I joke about it with my colleagues, but like, we loathe someone that's saying, oh, I can do, like, for instance, weddings, a day of coordination for $500. $500? What? You kid? I couldn't even pay my team with $500.
That is true.
You know what I mean? And so, but I was that person. I was that person struggling because you hunger for it so much that you're willing to do whatever it takes to still be in the business.
Yep.
Even if you're in the red, you're still in the business because you're still doing stuff.
Because I think in their mind, it's like, well, even if I'm in red, I can say I have this client. So I'm building up my client book so I can say, like, I've worked with these people or this many people, but not realizing, like, you're actually doing yourself a disservice.
You really are. And so, I had to have that reality check for myself to say, I have to stop accepting all types of clients and then get to the point where I'm saying, this is what my client makeup looks like. Yeah. These are the type of clients that I want. And it's not just, hey, do you have enough of your budget to be, it's more than just that. But at the same time, this is part of what we go through in our course is just really figuring out on the back end, what should you be charging and then who you should be charging. Yep. Because if you don't understand those two, then it's like, well, where are we going? Because I can't help you you have to know these things for your business. And a lot of times it takes time. It took me years to figure that out. Yeah. So I can understand if it's taking other people time to figure out, but having a coach, having a mentor, be a part of your learning, I feel like is critical. And a lot of people, as a planner not just as a planner, but from my experience, they feel like, if I'm asking another planner for help, that's my competition. Oh, why am I asking this person for? I'm not your competition.
He said, please believe I'm not.
I'm not. I only compete against myself. My clients know who I am, and I know who my clients are. We are not equals. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so people have to understand that. But like we get people now that we charge $600 an hour to coach people. And rightfully so. You have 20 years of experience. I have 20 years of experience, of hard-earned experience. Exactly. Of trial and error type of experience. But what I give to people is stuff that is actually going to help improve them so that way they can be really great. Yeah.
So because you've worked with an array of clients for a long period of time, what are some of the misconceptions people have about event planners? Because I know you've run into some stuff.
This is the one thing I have been thinking about in my head for the last 2 weeks is that I am not your personal assistant.
Say that.
I am not. And I feel like people believe that when we come on board as their planner, that they can ask us for any and everything. And you can't. What is in that contract? That's what I'm doing. Right. There's some, of course, there's some things, sure, I can do this for you, but I'm not your personal assistant, and you won't take advantage of me to believe that you have endless hours of access to me. You don't. During the pandemic, I changed our office hours from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Tuesday to Friday, and people had a fit.
Because they want to reach you all
They said
hours of the day.
They was like, what? 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.?
That's only 4 hours.
That's not enough time for us to... I said, but that's 20 hours a week. You can't contact me in 20 hours a week? That's not my problem. That's a you problem.
Because they want to be able to, something came up at 5 o'clock. They want to be able to contact you.
You're going to get my out of office. Because and that's the thing, is the access. And I feel like if you're hiring me, regardless of what my business hours are, you're hiring me to do the job. And if my office hours says it's from 10 to 2, know that the job is going to be done regardless of what the office hours are. And I was, it was an education, because I was like, well, when we're not in office, we're doing production. So it's not like from 10 to 2, that's just our day and we're done.
Exactly.
It's like going to a meetings all day. When am I going to get time to work?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So people don't understand that. And we had to make that decision because we needed to get work done. And so limiting the amount of access to people, limiting the fact that I'm not your personal assistant, I'm not going to run around here and do all the stuff that you think I'm going to do. Or also standing my ground and telling people that if you make changes and you're making constant changes to what you've already agreed to, that's going to cost you more money.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people feel like once you get on board, you can just ask for any and everything. And I'm very frank.
You'll be back. You're the type to be like, what does the contract say?
I do. Sometimes I got to go into, Copilot and be like, make this nice.
Yes. How do I make this not as harsh as it sounds right now?
Because some people really try it. And I'm like, that's not how I am. And I'm not a yes person. And I'm not going to say yes to any and everything. But yeah, those are some of the things that I feel like people lose their minds about. But oh well.
You talk a lot online about, you're helping people not create another Fyre festival. What are some mistakes corporations make when they're trying to plan events or when they're trying to plan events and when they first come to you? What are they doing that you're like, what are we?
The biggest thing is hiring before they hire the planner. And
you mean like hiring vendors and stuff?
Yeah, people are gonna be like, oh, well, this is a planner. Of course he's gonna say that. But listen, I tell you this because we do case studies on this. So it's not just, these are facts.
Yes.
I would never gas you up. These are facts. Many times clients begin to they'll hire their hotel or wherever the venue is, and they'll hire AV and they start hiring all these people. And then they hire us and then they're like, well, this is all we have for our budget. Make magic happen. I'm not a magician. If I was a magician, I wouldn't be working. You know what I mean? I can't make magic happen. I can only help you at the beginning stage because I am a master negotiator. I can negotiate prices down regardless of who it is. I'm going to do whatever I can to get you the best price at the best quality. And, we've had clients that understood that. They hired us. We've saved them $165,000. We've saved them $88,000 on just stuff that they would have paid for had they gone and moved forward and signed those contracts before they hired us. Yeah. And that's the thing that I wish all clients would stop doing. Really,
talk to us first.
And you don't even have to hire me. Give me 1 hour. Pay for 1 hour of my time. And I will tell you exactly what you need to do.
Oh, you do that too? If you meet with people,
we do consulting.
Yeah.
I will tell you exactly what you need to do. And, you move forward with that information. But a lot of times people, they got all the answers. So I'm like, okay.
So what happens when you work with, if someone reaches out to you and they've done that, but they still want you to be their planner? Like, how does that work? Do you not take them on or... You kind of have to
It depends. It depends because one, I need to know what your budget is. Yeah. I need to know what your vision for this event is, and then I need to know what the budget is because a lot of times the vision don't match the budget.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So I can say, as Tyler Perry, I want Paris, in springtime, and then you got $5,000. What am I gonna do with that? I can get you maybe a couple of tulips. You know what I mean? I just can't do all this. And so understanding the why with the budget helps to understand what we can do. And there's a level of negotiation as far as scope of work. if I can do all of this, great, no big deal. But if I can't, we need to have that conversation up front. And we do get those clients because sometimes they have previous, relationships with certain vendors or venues, and they want to continue to work with them. So they immediately go ahead and, sign those contracts. I can't do anything about it. So we try to make it happen. But if not, it is a no. I am a firm believer of saying no freely without explanation.
Because this is a complete sentence.
That's right.
Okay. That was a complete
I'm
sentence.
telling you.
One of the things I've seen, and I don't know if I saw it on your website, on a post, and when you were featured, on other platforms, is that you're not just a planner, but you're a storyteller.
Yeah.
So how do you infuse storytelling and branding in the events that you plan? And why is that something, corporations and other people who want to hire event planners, why should they consider that?
It's important because nowadays I'm really on my emotional intelligence, bandwagon.
Yeah.
Because I feel like so many times from a client perspective, the client only focuses on the client and their KPIs, what they need from the event, and all of that. And I say, well, that's great, but you're looking at events from a very black and white perspective. You're not looking at it from the attendee side and how the attendee is supposed to receive the stuff that it is that you want. So if you want to push the attendee to do something after your event, you have to take them on a journey. And failing to do that is a waste of money and it's a waste of an event. So it really is delving deep into the why behind their event and then building out what that why looks like.
Yeah.
Maybe it is in how you create an event website. Maybe it's how you send out an invitation. Maybe it's the branding. Maybe it's the food. It's the speakers, the content. Like there's so many things that can help build that story, into the content of, your event and its schedule. And that's key to us. It's key to understand why you have that event and then build that out because ultimately you want that person to do something for you in the end. When I worked for Apple many, many, many years ago, they put us through this 2-week course to teach you how to be trained on creating and how to delve into people and I ask you for feedback before I give you feedback, type of situation. And I feel like that was so customer centric that it helped me to not necessarily focus entirely on the client because Apple in the end of the day has to make their money.
Right.
But they can't make their money without making sure they provide the proper solutions to the customer.
Right.
If a customer comes in and says, hey, my phone is broken, my computer is broken or whatever, if you don't treat them people right, they're not coming back to next year when you have the next MacBook Pro or next the iPhone. You think the people coming back to you? No, they're not coming back to you. And so it's so important to help them because people, they have these phones and the phones have tons of photos of life in those photos, in that phone. And that is really what is important. It's not the phone.
Right.
The phone is a holder of what really matters. And with our clients, your event is that placeholder for the problems that people have and why they're coming to you. Yeah. And if you don't give them the proper solutions and literally unfold that and unpack it for them, they're going to go to another competitor who has done the job the way that it should be done.
I love that you focus on that because, we've all been to enough events and we're just like, it's the same
They're
thing
annoying.
Over and over and over again. And it's like, okay, well, you've been to one, you've been to them all. And it's like, one of my, I don't know if it's not a pet peeve, but one of my, it's like, how many more like women empowerment events do we need, right? It's like, we see them over and over and over again. But if you look at the agenda, you look at something like, it's the same thing everyone. It's a brunch. It's some guest speakers. You walk away with motivation. But what is the tangible thing somebody is walking away with that will make them take action, do something different, or, act in a different way than they've done in the past? So I love that you help your clients focus on that because it really helps them stand out from everybody else.
It does because, to your point, so many events are cut, rinse, repeat. You know what I mean? And I'm like, how many times you going to do this? How many years you going to do this? Because people, they feel like, oh, if I change the drape from gray to blue, that's going to keep people, it's going to be a change.
Yeah.
No, beloved. You need to figure out what is the problem that these people, because everybody has a different problem each time they come to an event. It's not the same problem over and over again. So if you're giving them the same exact event every single time, they're going to get tired of it. And people have been getting tired of it. And they have been going, and you see these huge, big events that have been canceling because they
can't get the numbers.
They can't get the numbers. And you have to change how you do that. And yes, to the point of Fyre Festival, I use that, and I'm going to continue to use that because now they're on the third iteration of trying to do this.
It's a third one? I thought it was only a second one. It's a third one now?
This is the third one. The second one
was canceled?
Failed and canceled. But this one they're trying to do again. They don't have a lineup, but they're selling tickets for $1 million, whatever. But I'm telling you, the more that you do events like that, where you are not protecting the attendees and giving them what it is that they want, the more you're going to constantly have these type of Fyre Festival events that are all hype, and that is it.
I'm surprised people still buying tickets for that. I mean, after the first one, that should have told you, like, no.
A lot of people are gullible. So events can use that to their advantage, I guess. I'm serious.
Clearly, if they're on the third try, clearly something's working.
Listen.
What should corporations, people looking for wedding planners, what should they be looking for in their events wedding planner?
The best thing
Why should they be coming to you, Andrew?
Personality.
Yeah.
Literally. Because while we don't do, example was weddings, while we don't do weddings a lot, we may do 4 to 6 weddings a year. Okay. That's a long time to be in a relationship with someone that you're not in a relationship with.
Oh, because of all the you're right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if you're going to hire a wedding planner, most likely you're hiring that person for 12 months.
I was going to ask, is it at least a year, right?
Yeah. How would you imagine being hired somebody that
you don't like?
Yeah, like
you're like, dang, I signed that contract and now we stuck.
Yeah. So personality really has to be one of the top things that you look for in a person, but also their ability to add value where you can't add value. Weddings are very personal. I choose not to be a very personal person when I am planning someone's wedding because when you add emotion to it, you make mistakes. Gotcha. And for me, I look at it this is what I see on the table, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if they continue to plan things emotionally, you're going to lead to higher risk for their wedding. And that could be overspending. This is their budget. You're doing more than what it is that they asked you to do. Now they're in the red for their budget. In debt, even more than what they should be. You don't have the connections that you need to have, whether it's in your base market where you're located at or nationally or globally. Making sure that a person has the ability to network and know who to go for vendors. Contracts. I cannot tell you, I'm not a contract lawyer. I have no degree in a contract and how to look at a contract and from a legal aspect of it, but I can tell you what a bad contract looks like.
Exactly.
I can tell you what a bad contract looks like, and we see it all the time. And I tell, my clients, I say, how good are you in signing a contract with only your information on it? Who are you going in agreement with?
Only their information.
They're the only person on the contract. It's only your name, only your address, only your name, your email, and the vendor. Who is the vendor? No information on the document. So who are you going in the contract with? So those are the type of things we catch because it's a big risk. If that vendor takes your money and doesn't do what it is it's supposed to do, and you go to court and you give them this document,
they're gonna be like, well,
and the judge is gonna be like, okay, this is good intention, but who are you in? A contract has to be two people, two entities.
Yeah,
and so like those are the types of things that we sell more than it is that, oh, here's a checklist. Make sure you send out invites by this time. Make sure you get the guest count in by this time. Like we're not a checklist type people. But still with the corporate side and that storytelling and making sure the look and feel is there, it's the same thing we do for weddings. Is make sure it looks good.
Now I know it's not just you.
No.
You have a team behind you, a fabulous team behind
Yeah,
you.
I love them.
How did you find such great people to work with?
Oh, so okay.
Because I know that's one of the challenges for
Yeah.
business owners is finding the right team to like
Mhm.
really help them execute their vision, especially if you want to scale. Like you
Yeah.
it can't only be you forever if you want to scale your business. How'd
Yeah.
you find your
It
team?
should never be you at all. It should never, so and I'll give you big picture, then I'll
Yeah.
scale it down.
Okay.
So my team consists of 3 different groups.
Okay.
So we have and all of them I pay, and I'm like, Jesus, this is money going out. But nevertheless,
Listen, y'all, before this episode started, he came here talking about, oh, I'm a business owner.
So,
and he's like, when you have payroll.
Payroll is the best.
Okay.
But big picture is we have an admin side,
Mhm.
we have a SEO and marketing side, then we have a production side.
Okay.
So what you normally see is the production side of my team: Dana, Danielle, Delante, Frederick. And Frederick and Delante have been with me for the longest. We actually were working on another company that ended up, closing down, and we started working together. Now, Danielle is the third oldest of the 4, and when I was on Facebook, I put out a post because Delante and Frederick was not available. And this was, I don't know how many years ago this was, but I put out a post. I was doing this event, 600 person event at the Ritz-Carlton. Yeah. Holiday party event, full reception, played it like the whole 9. And I put out a post and I said, I need somebody to come in and help me with this event. I need help. I'm not, I'm going to put information out. And Danielle said, hey, I'll come in, I'll help. And so I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
No video. Come, this is where I'm going to be at. This is the schedule, blah, 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 blah. Danielle came and knocked it out of the park. Like, Danielle came, everything we needed to do on it. Like, as if she was... We were connected
like
to
she
him
had
for
been here the
5,
whole
10
time.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, Danielle, you did an absolutely amazing job. I'm definitely, I'm paying you for this, but would you like to, continue doing this? And I said, you don't have to be, full-time or anything like this. Let's gradually see, work your way into it and see if this is something that you want to do, because you're only here day of. You don't see like all the other stuff. So she's stuck with it, and she's been here ever since. And then Dana came on. She's the last person that came on. Dana, I can't remember how I met Dana to ask her to come on board with this, but Dana is our pretty. And so all the fork needs to be like that. The napkin needs to be like that. The flowers, like, she's our pretty. So she makes sure it's like
these details.
Yeah, so she focuses all on that. She makes, like, if we're with weddings, she's with the brides and the bridesmaids and making sure that they look good and all that kind of stuff. So our team has been together for it's been at least 8 years with all 5 of us as a whole. And then, of course, the secondary team has been there within the last 5 years.
Nice.
So, yeah. So it's a lot, though. But you need the infrastructure, though. I tell people all the time, my job is never to work within our company, but to work on it.
The business,
to see it grow, to make the partnerships, to get the clients, and bring them in so my team can then do their job.
Exactly.
So that's a hard thing for somebody that's starting out, because one, cash flow, which, we talked about, is that it's hard to hire people that when you don't have any money to hire people. So, yeah.
Well, they can get all that together when they come to you for coaching.
Yeah, I can help them get to that point. Yeah.
Where do you see Andrew Roby events in the next 3 to 5 years?
So this is a scary thing.
Yes.
Because I'm always adapting based off of how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is to exit from planning. Yeah.
You just be owner?
Yeah. I want to get to the point where I am. So I just discovered this new thing called fractional CEO.
Yep.
And I found that to be absolutely fascinating.
I've seen like fractional marketing, CEO marketing,
Yeah.
all the different, basically all the C-suite positions, but fractional, I've seen those.
Yeah, so I want to be a fractional CEO to companies or maintain the coaching side of business, and then continue to speak. That's all I want to do. But I'm leaning more over to like that stuff not being primary, more so design work is more primary, is what I'm leaning towards. But in the next couple of years, I don't want to be doing a single event unless I have to.
Unless there's a specific request, like we want Andrew.
Yeah.
He's
Unless
like-
it's high
he's like, no.
profile
Yeah.
or if it's a big, like we have clients that like, you know, a lot of our corporate clients are doing events with 2,000, 3,000 or so people.
Mhm.
So for stuff like that, it's more attention to detail. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll do that.
Come on, fractional CEO.
Listen, I just need some folks who need some you know, hand holding. I'm
I
there.
have seen that. A lot of people have been leaning into that lately. Like a
Yeah.
fractional, like they have fractional HR
Mhm.
people, fractional CEO, fractional COO. And I was like, oh, this is something new I never heard of before. But
Yeah.
so how does that exactly work though? Is it just a limited time that you'd be a CEO like at companies in your company or
Yeah, so you're actually not a CEO of anything.
Anything.
So you're working with that CEO
with, okay.
as their advisor,
Gotcha.
mainly to get them through a particular phase that they're navigating that they need support in. Sometimes, you know, for me, if you have a CEO that, you know, 1 to 2 years, 1 to 3 years in the game and they're struggling on a particular thing,
Mhm.
I can come in and work alongside them to get them past that issue or to help
Gotcha.
them grow and scale. I'm not coming in to tell their employees to do anything. That's
Right.
not my position. It is up to that CEO to tell their team how to lead their team.
Right.
I guide the CEO specifically. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. I love that. I can see you doing that for sure. As much as
I
advice
like
you
it.
give out on social media.
Listen, I need people to follow my social media and take my advice because
Yes.
some of them I be like, what's going on? What's the
What's
thought
happening?
process?
What's happening?
Yeah.
As we wrap up, so I have one more question and then we're going to do a little rapid fire
Oh,
questions.
okay. Come on.
What does success look like for Andrew?
You know, it's not a easy question for me to answer
Mm-hmm.
because when I think about success,
Mm-hmm.
I think about it beyond me.
Mm.
So success to me really has everything to do with my team and what it is that they aspire to be. So for me, I could easily say, "Oh yeah, I'm making however much
Yeah.
money. I'm doing this. I'm successful." But
Mhm.
I feel as a leader, success has to also take into consideration your people. And if they aren't feeling successful, if they aren't doing so many things that they desire to do, then I don't think that I'm successful. So I feel like that is an ongoing thing.
Ongoing question.
Yeah. So it's hard to answer.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I love, that's a great answer though, because
Yeah.
a lot of people, you don't hear them talk about success in terms of their team or the
Mhm.
legacy or what they're leaving,
Yeah.
how the work that they're doing impacts other people.
Yeah.
So no, that is an answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I'm curious because I'm nosy. What
Okay.
is one of the wildest things that has happened at an event that you have planned? Because I know you have stories.
The wildest thing that has happened
One
at
of the
any
wildest, because I know there's more than one.
one let me I gotta think about a good one. I'm sure if Delonte was here right now, he would that one. And okay, the
He'll
wildest
watch us and be like, "Why didn't you remember this?"
Right,
He's like, "Don't you remember that time?"
exactly. I'm trying to think of a wild thing that has ever happened at an event.
A wildest thing or a wild request. Since people have acted like they have full access to you.
Why am I drawing a blank? Can I come back to this
Yes.
question? Okay, let's come back to this
Okay.
question while I think, and I'll
I'm like, do you
have
need to make a
something.
call? Like, call a friend. And be
Right,
like, what's
phone a
with-
friend.
Phone a friend and be like, what happened?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, let that one marinate.
Oh, I got a good one.
Okay.
I got a fashion one.
Okay.
So, okay, look, just come back to mind. So when we were doing fashion shows,
Mhm.
and I talked about, doing Bryant Park and doing the tents and everything. So we were in Old Town and we were doing a fashion week and we said, yes, let's go ahead and do this huge
Yeah.
tent outside at in Old Town overlooking the water. Went through the city of Alexandria, Lord have mercy. Went through the city of Alexandria, filed all the permits, personally filed all the permits, because filing permits for tents and police and street blockage is not an easy thing. I was in that office like constantly filing permits, making sure that they got approval and all that stuff. 3 days before the event, they said, you can't do this event. You don't have the permits. And I said, wait, what?
You're like, I have the paperwork.
I said, but we already went through this. Everything has been filed. Everything was approved. We don't have permits for you. So a tent, $16,000 for a tent, gone. $5,000 for the luxury portable restrooms, gone. $4,000 for the AC system, because we're doing tents outside. You need to have, AC system, gone.
I'm calculating all this in my head, the amount right now.
Gone.
Like $25,000.
But then I was like, well, at that point, really bad. I would never do this again. And I tell my clients, never sell tickets and use that money to be able to fund your event. But we were selling tickets to be able to fund the expenses of the event. And I said, well, there's no way I can pay these people. I can't cancel the event. I don't have the money to give refunds back to all these people. So quickly was like, where can we host this event at? And also spin it so that way people realize that you're no longer at the Bryant Park experience, but you're now, whatever experience we're about to give you. And so thankfully, Hilton, Mark Center, God bless them, was like, yeah, we got space. We'll give it to you. And, gave it to us at a really great price. Still had the event. Everybody showed up. I cried every single day. Every single day, because I said, this ain't Bryant Park. And I was,
because you had a vision.
When you have
it was
a
not
vision,
the vision. Yes. When you have a vision.
I was so pissed at the city of Alexandria. It's probably why I moved out of Alexandria as well and will never return. But it is what it is. But yeah.
So what ended up happening? They just didn't file the paperwork even though you were up there?
I don't know what happened. And the crazy part is that we had so many meetings with the city rep who gave approval for all of this stuff. Went back and I was like, what happened? And they gave us this
run around.
Yeah. And I said, you know what? Whatever. We finished. We did the shows. Everybody liked it. And it is what it is.
And you're like, never again in Alexandria.
Never again. Never again.
What is since you're an avid traveler, what's one of your favorite places to travel?
I got 3.
Okay.
Barcelona.
Ooh.
Only because I'm from Miami. So Barcelona is a coastal city, I feel. And it's the beach, just the vibe that you get from being in like that outdoor city, feel where you can walk to the stores, walk to restaurants and everything. They don't have like a dedicated mall. The Zara is on the street, the whatever else is on the street. Like all of that is really amazing. Thailand, because Thailand is very inexpensive, but when we travel, we don't want to spend so much money when we travel. Yeah. And the ability to spend less money and do more things is always a bargain. I don't care who you is.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so going to Thailand, we went to Thailand for New Year's and we went to this outdoor block party and it was
that sounds amazing.
Absolutely crazy.
It sounds like a good time. It was outdoor block party, yes.
It was amazing.
In another country? Absolutely.
I would do it every single year if I had to. Every single year. And then Rio. Because Rio is just, I feel like Rio is a hidden gem. Of course, plenty of people go to Rio. Yeah. But I feel like Rio is like one of those, the sound on TikTok, what is this place? Yes. that's
it's like one of those places.
That's how I feel about Rio. So yeah. And I love to travel. So I've been to a lot of countries, but those 3 are
your top.
Yeah, my top.
So I'm gonna have to add those to my list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I love a good coastal situation. I love being by the water.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at peace.
Can't beat it. Can't beat it.
Final question. What is one thing people would be surprised to know about you?
I hate crowds.
Really?
I do. I hate crowds. I was just talking to one of my friends yesterday as I sat in a sushi shop by myself, eating sushi and drinking sake. And he was like, oh, I'm going to come for Memorial Day weekend. We're going to do this and this and that. And I said,
no.
I'm not doing it. I said, we can go and have dinner. We can do a cocktail somewhere, but I'm not going to be in the midst of a whole bunch of people. And it's weird because we do events for thousands of people, but I'm a behind the stage, type person where all you all are out there. I'm here. It's quiet,
Mhm.
and I'm in
You're
my
like, it's
solitude.
executed, then I can just be still.
And it's just something about crowds. I don't go to the grocery store. I
do
don't go to
delivery.
the mall. Like all that stuff it's delivered. I
Mhm.
just can't. Maybe it's the anxiety of
might
just
be.
being in the midst of all these people and feeling the demand that they, possibly have on me when I'm producing an event
Yeah.
that causes me not to like a crowd. And plus, the military side of me is always thinking about where's your exits, what can possibly happen, the risk management aspect of it. So I don't want to deal with it.
Having the military background would make sense that you wouldn't want to be, because then it's like anytime you're out, you're just anxious.
Yeah,
Because
I
you're
really
always
am.
just like, you can't really enjoy being there because you're
Mhm.
always at a high alert.
Yeah.
So that
yeah.
makes sense. I get it.
That's it. So don't invite me to.
She's like, so that's your cue. Don't invite me to any event that has a large group of
No,
people.
I'd rather not go.
That's okay. Well, when you came to LA, we went out to lunch.
And that was so
It was great. It was me and you and one of your friends. Yes, we went out to lunch. It was great.
Perfect. I love those intimate moments though.
Yeah.
Like that's when I feel like you can bond the most.
I agree.
So yeah.
I totally agree. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
And sitting on the couch,
Yeah.
kicking back.
I like this couch.
Thank you. Thank you. We recorded another episode. They were like, "Oh, this couch is really nice." I was like, "I'll let you know who it is. It is a Black-owned brand, so I'll let you know."
Yes.
But I appreciate you coming, sharing your stories, talking about your business, because I'm here to platform everybody's business that I know and love and enjoy and think everyone should know about. So I appreciate you.
Thank you
so much.
Appreciate you.
So Andrew, please let everybody know where they can find you to connect with you. Make sure y'all follow him on social media for sure. But where can people connect with you?
Yeah, so I only have one personal account on
Yes.
social media, and that is LinkedIn under Andrew Roby. But everything else is all work related. Andrew Roby Events, TikTok, Instagram. We still have Facebook. We still have LinkedIn for our company pages. So yeah. And of course, our website, andrewrobyevents.com.
So if you guys are looking for tips on hosting events, planning events, you need an event planner for your corporate events, social events, make sure y'all contact Andrew and his team. And listen, I've seen the photos from the stuff that they produce, okay? It is luxurious. You will not be disappointed, okay? They know what they're doing. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Make sure you guys leave a comment below. Let me know what you're thinking if you're watching on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share with a friend, and I will catch you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Kickback with Keri podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. The Kickback with Keri is available wherever you get your podcasts.